Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on my video. My name is Brandon. For those of you that have not seen my videos before, I am an American. I moved here to Sweden under 2 years ago. I've been learning the language, adapting to society here, and trying to be a productive member here. And I like to share my experience, my perceptions. Those are going to be unique to me. Everybody's going to have their own perception and their own opinions, of course. But my hope is that the information that I share is useful and helpful to those who are considering moving to Sweden, or have already done that and are still in the process. So I've learned a lot of lessons through this whole immigration situation, and so hopefully my information is going to be helpful to you all. Don't forget to hit the like button if this video is helpful to you, and if you've got questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If I'm not able to get to it, no doubt there will be other people in this community that will be more than willing to help you out with your questions. So first off, I'd like to say I've got a lot of good news. Today, I passed the first part of my driving test here in Sweden. Super excited about it. I passed the theory part, so that's the book work. Gotta say, super impressed with the lab where I took the test. It was super state of the art. They had like touch screens everywhere for everybody to use. Very nice, clean facilities, very modern. I've never experienced anything like that in the United States. It might be different now. I took my driving test a long time ago. I've been driving for over 20 years. I've been driving since I was 17. I'm 41, so yeah, do the math. But anyways, yeah, I was pretty excited and pretty nervous as well, but I got it passed on the first try. I did it in English. You have the ability to take it in different languages. We'll say I was kind of struggling because the English translation was kind of strange. Sometimes I didn't completely understand the questions because it seemed to be almost like a British translation, and just the wording was a little bit strange. But in any case, I passed on the first try. My score is about 86%, so happy with that. Next week, I take I think it's called the utkörning. That's the actual driving test where I have an inspector in the car with me. I'm extremely nervous about it, so hopefully I do well in that. We'll see. I'll let you know if I pass. Other good things have been going on in my life. I finally got a Swedish identification card, which was a huge fiasco. So like I said, go back, watch my videos if you want to know a little bit more about the background of all the struggles I've been going through here in Sweden. I put those out there just to share my own perspective and my own journey, so that hopefully you can avoid some of the mistakes and troubles I've had, and maybe you're curious about what it is like for someone who's from outside the EU to come into the Swedish system. So I've got all that out there for you guys. But in any case, what ended up happening with me was when I came to Sweden, I was not in a relationship with anyone, no romantic partner, no family here. I did not come here on a work visa or a work permit. I came here, the only way I could come here was to come here as a student and study Swedish. So I went to University of Lund, studied Swedish, came here on a student permit, and that allowed me to also work. And then afterwards, I applied for a 12-month extension so that I could go look for work. I found a job. That was kind of a problem. Go back and look at my videos about that if you want to know about that. I almost got deported, but thankfully that's been worked out. And yeah, so in that whole process, everybody kept telling me about this person number. This person number is a Swedish version of an American social security number. So just like the social security number in America, you need it for identifying yourself a whole lot in Sweden to be able to come into using different things. So for example, if I want to go see a doctor, I need this number. I could not, unless it was an acute situation where I'm literally dying, I could not go see a doctor for, say, if I had COVID symptoms and I was not acutely ill, or if I had a migraine headache, or if I had some chronic issue. I could not see a doctor here until I had that number. I also needed it, for example, to get my own cell phone plan. I needed it for having all the different facets of banking. I did get a bank account, but I didn't have the ability to use all the different features that a person would have here in Sweden. Another issue here is they have a thing called bank ID, and you need that bank ID to verify who you are for a lot of things. For example, logging into my cell phone account. Logging into my bank account, I can do that, but it's a lot more complicated way to log in than if you don't have the mobile bank ID. So yeah, that was a big problem for me. I did have what's called a samordning number or a coordination number. It's like a temporary number they give you, but it really doesn't work in exactly the same way as a person number. It does give you access to some things, for example, buying property, buying a car, which I have bought an old used car. Also, for example, paying taxes and yeah, just certain features of that. I was able to get a bank account, but it was very limited on what I could do. So, like for example, I had wired money originally when I came to Sweden from the United States to my bank account in Sweden, and I was not able to wire it back to the United States once I got a job here to replace the money that I borrowed from my American bank account. There is a rule here when you're filing taxes. This was the first year I filed taxes here. And I file taxes in the United States, which I have to do for the rest of my life. Even if I don't make money there, I have to tell them how much I make here. And one of the questions is, does your bank account in Sweden have more than $10,000? So if I want to avoid that little fiasco and I want to try to pay down the money that I borrowed from my savings in America, I haven't been able to do that. So hopefully that's fixed now. I got a person number. I got that in April. That took a really long time. You can go back and look at my videos and see what I had to go through to get that. But basically, I really wanted to stress here in this video that having a person number does not solve all your problems, as I had thought falsely. Once I got that person number, I was so excited. I was like, okay, this fixes everything. Not so. The next challenge was I really needed a Swedish identification card. So for example, either a Swedish driver's license, which I was not able to take the Swedish driving class. I took classes, but I wasn't allowed to take the actual two exams, the theory exam and the driving test, until I had a person number. And then I needed that Swedish identification card also, for example, if I was going to get all the features of my bank account. And to get all the features of the bank account, that would facilitate me being able to get mobile bank ID to verify who I am and to pay for things. I needed that so that I could put I was on a friend's cell phone plan because when I first came to Sweden, I had a kind of pay as you go, like a prepay, which was not working for me. A really bad plan. The best plan was to get on like with a normal phone company, which I wasn't able to do without a personal identification number. And so I got on my friend's account and I was paying him monthly. Then when I got the person number, well, I tried to put it in my name, but they wanted a Swedish identification card, which I didn't have. And the only way I could get that is I had to get approval from the immigration here in Sweden to stay here, and I needed proof, and I didn't need just it on a piece of paper. They needed like an actual ID card. So I'll rewind a little bit for those of you that haven't seen my other videos just to kind of explain this. Okay, so I came here on a student permit. It's very, very complicated, but I came here on a student permit. That allowed me to study and work. The permit was good for 11 months. Now, after the 11 months is complete, you are allowed to apply for a 12-month extension to look for work, which I did. Now, the 11 months were not long enough for me to apply for a personal identification number. It has to be 13 months or longer. So my tip to you all, if you're coming here as a student, try to apply for a program definitely that's longer than 13 months so you can apply for that personal number right off the bat so you can avoid all the problems that I got into. Okay, next issue. When I applied for the personal number in the beginning, I didn't really understand. Things weren't really explained too well for me, and I was having trouble filtering through all the stuff online. And I applied for the personal number right off the bat. Then they denied me after 3 months and said, no, you can't have it. But they didn't say anything about, oh, you can apply for this temporary number, the subordinating number. So I go home, I'm doing research, I'm talking to a classmate, and then they're like, oh, yeah, I had the same problem too. Why don't you just apply for this temporary number, the coordination number? So then I did that. I don't know why they didn't tell me that in the beginning, but yeah, it is what it is. So I applied for that. So that's my next tip. Make sure if you are going to come and you know you don't qualify for a person number, like you come for an 11-month course or less, like I did, apply for the subordinating number right off the bat. They have to have that subordinating number and the personal number. They come from the tax office, Skatterverket. They need to have some sort of picture ID showing that you are allowed to be here in Sweden. So that's going to come from the immigration people, and that just takes time. After my 11 months were done and I wasn't able to apply for the personal number, I applied for the 12-month extension. Well, on the website it was saying it was taking 6 months, then it says 7 months, and then it said 8 months. It just kept getting longer and longer, the wait. I'm calling, I'm emailing. I wasn't getting any help. I was getting a lot of emails that were automatic, like, we do not prioritize your email, stuff like that. I tried calling. They have very difficult hours, and you have to be on hold forever. And a lot of times, the majority of the time, probably 80% of the time I called, it said, please call again later. All the lines are busy and full. So I just kept at it, and then finally I was really, really sick and I needed to see a doctor. I'm a registered nurse from the States. I moved here to Sweden to take care of people here. I knew there was a huge deficit of nurses here in Sweden, and so you would think that as a nurse, me taking care of people, I would have some sort of access to healthcare myself, but I didn't. So I was getting really, really sick. I was starting to miss a lot of work because of being sick. But then when I would call it's called Vårdcentral, the people you go into to get healthcare, if it's not acute, like if you're dying, yeah, you can go to the hospital, but other than that, you get no treatment. I was really stressed out. I didn't know what to do. And so I wrote an email to Migrationsverket after I've been waiting. It'd been, I want to say it'd been like 9 or 10 months. So I sent the email, and immediately the next day they replied and said, you've been approved. Everybody else that I know of that came from outside the European Union that had applied still never got an answer. Here's the crazy thing. When you apply for the 12-month extension, they retro-date it back to the day that you applied for. So I applied from, what was that, June 19th, which means it would go to June 20th. So I only had, by the time I finally was getting approval, I had like maybe 2 months, 2.5 months, something like that left that would be on my extension. And then if you go look at my other video, you'll see that I was risking deportation as well because of some issues with my employment. I won't get into that on this video. If you want to know more about that, go back to that video. And then what ended up happening was sorry, I'm like having to think through this because it was such a complicated, hot mess. But basically, anyways, they said, yeah, you're approved. Now you got to set up a date if you want your ID card. Well, I needed that ID card because I needed a purse number, and I couldn't get a purse number without proof. I couldn't just have a piece of paper from Migrationsverket. I needed like an actual ID card printed out by Migrationsverket. So long story short, on that part, I applied for going in there, and then they closed down the facilities in my town, which meant I had to go to the next town, which was Malmo. It was over an hour and a half, and go in there, get fingerprinted, get ID'd, and then it took them over 3 weeks to mail me my card, and so that was starting to get really panicky. By the time I finally got the card, I had about only 2 weeks left on my residency here. Thankfully, by then my employer had started the process of a work permit, so that's in process now, and I'm just waiting. On the website it says 14-month wait to get an answer on that. But anyways, so I got my ID card from them, and then I had to set up an appointment with Skatterverket. By the time I got into Skatterverket, the tax agency, to go and get my Swedish identification, because the bank will not take my immigration card from Migrationsverket. They need an actual printed out card from either the police station, or they need a passport that's a Swedish passport, or they need a ID card from Skatterverket. And I did not qualify for, of course, a Swedish passport because I'm not a Swedish citizen. And according to the website with the police department, and when I talked to them, I did not qualify for those either, because those cards I would get needed some other sort of card that I did not have. So it was like a giant circle. It's like you need this to get this to get this, and then you end up right back where you started, which seems to be quite typical here in Sweden. I imagine it's probably the same thing in the United States. You know, I was born there, raised there, so I have no idea. Let me know if you moved to America, was it the same kind of mess it was for me coming here? But anyways, yeah, so by the time I finally got into the tax agency to get my card, they're like, wow, you got in here like just in the nick of time, because you have like 2 days left, and then we would not have been able to give you this ID card. Which means if I hadn't gotten in there like let's say I caught COVID or something, because like one of my coworkers actually caught COVID like a couple days before, I would have had to cancel my appointment, which means I wouldn't get I wouldn't get the ID card, which means then I wouldn't be able to go to the bank and get them to fix me up with bank ID, mobile bank ID, and all these other things. I wouldn't have been able to put the cell phone plan in my name. So it was like, whew, by the skin of my teeth, I got it all worked out. So very, very, very happy. Thanks for bearing with my story there. But yeah, got my ID card. As I mentioned in another video, I also passed my nursing examination back in April, the first one. So what that leaves where I'm at now, you know, like I said before, I kind of my whole life has been at a bottleneck for almost 2 years. And then all of a sudden everything's just like, it's like, you know, ketchup coming out of the bottle all at one time. So yeah, exciting times. I'm feeling very hopeful now. But those are, I just wanted you all to know the story because, like I said, if you're moving to Sweden or you got someone in your life that's coming here or you're already here, you're thinking about it, be very, very cognizant that it takes a lot of time for things to happen. The biggest thing I would say, if you're coming here without any relationships with anybody, make sure if you're coming as a student that you apply for a degree if you can that's longer than 13 months. If not, apply for that samordning number as soon as you can, the temporary one. And then, you know, stay on top of Migrationsverket. You know, communicate with them, email them. It seems like that's the only way that I was able to get something done about my cases, because I was very transparent with them and told them, hey, I'm desperate. I need health care. I'm a nurse and I can't even get health care. Despite me taking care of the people of Sweden here, I have no right to health care, and that's very unfair. I'm paying taxes and all that sort of thing, and they took care of it within like 24 hours. So sometimes you got to do that. You got to be the squeaky wheel to get greased. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Like I said, if I don't have an answer, I'm sure someone here does that follows in the comments. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun doing these videos. Like I said, everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's got a unique perspective, but this is my journey. This is my story, and hopefully it was helpful and interesting to you all. Thanks for watching and all your support. Have a wonderful day.